A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. If you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown in prison. Truly, I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Some kind of challenging words for us today from the Gospel of Matthew. This is toward the end of the chapter of the famous chapter, chapter 5, that holds the Beatitudes. We're more familiar with those and a little more comforted. These are challenging our behaviors and that whole concept of holding anger. I think it's very interesting when he opens, I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Toward the end of the Gospel of Matthew, remember, he tells them, I tell you, Pharisees, the tax collectors and the prostitutes will make it in before you, which is all very interesting and also kind of challenging for us because the scribes and the Pharisees were the keepers of the law and known for their holiness and their character. So Jesus tells us that we have to exceed that, and he's targeting our hearts. I find it also interesting that he mentions, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment, and kind of equivocates it and says, if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, this whole business of anger and what that can lead to. I was recently reading an old desert father, St. Dorotheus of Gaza. I think the passage was on resentment, and he talks about the perils and the danger of anger, and how that anger, if we just hold on to it, how that leads to frustration, and how that leads to bitterness, and eventually it will inform our actions. Jesus is concerned about our deeds, but he's also concerned about our hearts and our thoughts. And anger is not meant to be held onto. It fosters and turns into other things. And he doesn't make a distinction here between righteous anger. We know the verse, be angry but sin not, or anger at a brother or sister. He cautions us about any type of anger that could impact our spiritual life and our relationship with our brother and sister. If we hold on to that too long, it can taint our souls. He is concerned about our very lives and our hearts. He says, come to terms quickly with your accuser. He doesn't even want us to go to church until we have reconciled with a brother or sister. If we are angry with them, or more importantly here, if they are angry with us. He says, reconcile that, deal with that immediately. Do not have that on your hearts, even at worship, or especially at worship. And I know sometimes it feels good to be mad. I'm mad at them. And there's some type of excitement with that. But Jesus warns us, the spiritual life has no room for anger that fosters or sits around. So perhaps one of the disciplines for this Lenten journey of 2024, we can work on our anger and work on forgiveness and hope that the Lord helps us in reconciling, coming to terms with anyone who's angry with us or who we may be angry with. For we want to be on the path that leads us to Christ. Amen.